pro-Israeli protest, protesting about October the 7th, a vigil held in Brighton over the weekend, in which a young copper, told a protester, an Israeli protester or a Jewish protester, that in his view, people shouting that Jews are baby killers is not racially aggravated and is not an incitement to hatred. They're shouting Jews are baby killers. This copper thought it was and I'll use his exact phrase, in the same vein as calling Hamas rapists. The Jewish guy goes, but they are. This is a British serving policeman who thinks that if you shout Jews are baby killers, it's not at all incendiary, it's not racially aggravated, it's not calculated to incite racial hatred or anything like that. It's just a normal thing to shout in a free country. Well, we're all for freedom of speech, but if we're going to have hate laws, shouting Jews are baby killers, I think it maybe qualifies as a breaking of our hate laws. I wish we did have hate laws, actually, but that's another issue. So we'll talk about that in just a little while. Also, taking your calls at 8:30, half an hour or so. 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note if you prefer. Right, let's go over to my first guest of this hour. He's the writer, author, journalist Jonathan Sacerdoti, who's got lots to say about our two heroines of the weekend, Dawn French and Greta Thunberg, both of whom climbed aboard, if you like, the traditional lovey sort of Israel-hating celebrity bandwagon. There's a groupthink going on there. Welcome, Jonathan. Before we talk, let's just have a look at our two female heroes at work. Well, first up, here's Dawn French's video that she posted.
Complicated, no, but nuanced. But, you know, bottom line is no. Yeah, but, you know, they did a bad thing to us. I mean, I don't know, yeah, but no. But we want that land and we don't know, you know, got a history and we got, you know, no.
As I keep saying, she subsequently issued an apology, Jonathan. Did she mean it? No. Now, before we address the Dawn French issue, here's Greta Thunberg, who's been on a Mediterranean cruise, enjoying herself. Lovely weather down there. I don't know if you saw a couple of days ago on the deck, like right at the forefront, like on Titanic. There's a picture of herself wrapped in a Palestinian flag, having a cocktail. It's unbelievable. So she's been on holiday, really irresponsible. You know, if she wants to go and protest about climate change wherever, fine, but don't get involved in what's going on in Gaza. The Israeli Navy, that's got far more important work to do, had to waste its time intercepting this boat, this Freedom Flotilla, which was going to break Israel's siege, was carrying a kind of performative, symbolic cargo of aid, never got anywhere near Gaza. As you wrote for The Spectator, I think, Greta should thank the IDF for saving her damn life. But here is Greta after she got arrested.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
You're not kidnapped, you're not a prisoner. All the Israelis did, to their credit, they sat those 12 idiots down, those 12 virtue signalling celebrity, what they call it, the IDF brilliantly dismissed it as a selfie yacht, which is what it was. They sat them all down and made them watch a film of the horrors of what happened on October the 7th. So we'll talk about Greta in a second, Jonathan, but first up, your take on our hero, Dawn French, and that bit where she went, the worst bit was, oh yeah, oh, you did a bad thing to us. No. And all this, you did a bad thing to us, a bad thing. thing. They exterminated 1,200 innocent Israelis. They raped women. They cooked babies in ovens. They murdered people at point-blank range with their machine guns. And she goes, oh, he did a bad thing to us. I mean, you know, for God's sake, Dawn French must never again, in my view, be regarded, as she has been hitherto, as a national treasure. Would you agree?
I think it's so depressing when figures like Dawn French put this stuff out, because it's so sanctimonious and kind of patronising about what is really a terrible tragedy for so many people. I think it shows either a complete ignorance of what's going on, or more likely a complete disregard for what's going on. She tries to turn it into like a comedy skit, I suppose, on her ex. She is a comedian, so I understand that, you know, when you're a hammer, every problem's a nail. But I think that if making mocking videos about this situation were the way to fix it, well, probably we'd be in a much happier world. Indeed, I would say that what Dawn French did here is utterly reprehensible. The idea that she did it by accident, as she sort of suggested in her apology, is also pathetic. She said that she didn't mean to sound one-sided, that she didn't mean to exclude condemnation of Hamas and what it did on October the 7th and since, and for many decades before. But of course she did mean that. She planned this video, she planned what she'd say, she rehearsed it perhaps, she maybe did more than one take of it, she watched it over before she uploaded it, just like any other sad old Instagram influencer. And I would say that that really shows what she truly meant to do. The fact that she apologised afterwards is because there was such a backlash. Perhaps she realised how stupid she looked, how insensitive it was. But the damage is done already, and I think that, you know, others have said even after this apology, you can still look at her profile and see which flags she chooses to put in her little description in her bio. There's no Israeli flag there, there's the PLO flag, and, you know, I think that again shows the true intentions of what she wants to contribute to this.
And there's a Gary Lineker element to this, isn't there? Very, very outspoken now. They look at what they call the horror in Gaza, the Israelis, the evil Israelis and what they're doing. They're very, very outspoken now. Dawn French, along with Gary Lineker and so many other lovies from our celebrity community, after October the 7th, not a word, complete silence. Do you see a duplicity here, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, look, it is horrible to watch what's going on in Gaza. And to some extent, one has to look at it and think about the lesson that maybe Palestinian mainstream society and politics should learn, which is when you massacre other people and start a war, you can expect that you might suffer afterwards. Now, I'm not saying that means that everybody in Gaza deserves to suffer and that those who are caught up in this but aren't instrumental in that attack deserve any of what they're getting necessarily. But I am saying that it's not surprising that there is a war. It's not surprising that after what happened for decades, culminating in that horrific massacre on October the 7th, Israel went to war with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, with Hamas specifically, because after so many years of trying to live alongside them, of trying to minimize the rocket fire out of that region, of trying to live despite the constant indoctrination and education of children towards terror, hatred of Jews and the like. Eventually, you know, they did have to act after hundreds of people were killed, raped, kidnapped, tortured, and that has just carried on. They still haven't got back all of the hostages. People are still dying in captivity. And there is starvation in Gaza. We know there is starvation in Gaza because the hungriest, most starving people we've seen are those Jews that Hamas released in those horrific pantomimes they staged when there was a ceasefire, and they exchanged the hostages they took for Palestinian prisoners, many of them with blood on their hands, found guilty of terrorist acts. So I think that generally speaking, it's fine to have a lot of sympathy for people who are caught up in this. But at the same time, that is war. War is horrific. And the things that will speed up the end of this war are not the do-gooders, the lovies who come up with these really half-baked contributions, these mocking, jeering, patronising videos and the like, and their pathetic demands. Because what needs to happen is Hamas the jihadi terrorists have to be absolutely defeated. If they're defeated, then the people of Gaza maybe stand a chance, I say maybe, of having better leadership that might then educate the next generation away from that kind of jihadi Jew hatred, that bloodthirstiness inspired by Islamic extremism. And then maybe there is a prospect for the two Israelis and Palestinians to coexist peacefully side by side. But that's a lot of maybes. The first part that really needs to happen is that they need to absolutely eliminate, have absolute victory over.
Well, I think that's what's happening. That's what's happening, and that's what the Dawn Frenches of this world. Indeed, that was what Hamas can't understand. That in the past, Hamas have relied, in my view, on the usual system, which, yes, there's always a very, very stringent response to their acts of terror, but then it dies down, and then everything, the dust settles and everything goes back to normal. Well, this time, for better or worse, Israel said, no, not this time. We're going to finish the job. You know, you are not getting away with us just laying down our weapons before the job is done. So that is what's going on. Why do you think, Jonathan, that so her ridiculous apology, did she mean it when she said sorry? No, she didn't. But she says, I'm so sorry, I clumsily used a mocking tone in an effort to convey, and I quote, an important message. Yeah, because I was a bit confused about what's going on in Gaza, and I was saying, where are the middle-aged British comedians, the middle-aged, middle-class comedians to tell us what we should be thinking? Because that's what we look to people like Dawn French for, isn't it? Important messages about the conflict in the Middle East. Well, the Olympian self-importance of this is off the scale, isn't it?
Of course it is. I have to say, you know, many people love Dawn French's comedy. I'm not such a fan myself, but she is somebody that's made a career out of it, and a very successful one. So I don't take that away from her, but I don't look to clowns and comedians for analysis of complex geopolitical situations. But against the backdrop of rising anti-Semitism, which has really been spurred on by this unbridled hatred of Israel, the Jewish state, trying to protect its people from anti-Semitic jihadi killers, I think that this can't be looked at ignoring that. The world she lives in is one where presumably Jewish people she knows are having the same conversations I'm having and hearing week in, week out from other Jews, which is how much longer have we got left in this country with two-tier policing where they don't arrest people who are calling Jews baby killers, or who are calling for jihad on the street, or where Jewish schools are not properly protected, where we see people around the world being literally killed in America or elsewhere for being Jewish, where we basically hear Jewish people saying they don't feel looked after and protected.
Jonathan, she doesn't have any. She doesn't have any friends like that. She lives in a groupthink world where they all think the same, and they're in their groupthink world, their simplistic binary groupthink world. It goes like this: Palestine, good; Israel, bad. That's her philosophy. That's what these people are like. Same for Lineker, all the rest of them. Quickly, let's talk about Greta, if we may. I mean, frankly, it's beneath contempt what they were doing. And the only thing I'd sort of like to say to Greta Thunberg is, look, you've got to grow up. If you must do these protests, don't go to war zones. You know, this is grown up territory, and there's no room for little children like you. I mean, I say that she's 23 now or something. Look at her. It's unbelievable. Playing Titanic. She's got to, I mean, go and protest elsewhere. Don't do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad she had a nice Mediterranean boat holiday with the sort of normal level of worship of Saint Greta that she's used to and publicity. But as you say, this is a very serious situation, and actually this doesn't do anything to help people in Gaza, and she and all the other idiots on that boat knew it. They are self-publicists who are out to try and virtue signal to the world. This was a theatre of performative virtue signalling. They knew that even if they did get through to Gaza, they wouldn't be very safe, but even if they were, the amount of aid they brought on that boat was less than one truck. Whereas Israel has actually navigated this very complex situation where Hamas is stealing the aid, keeping it away from ordinary people in Gaza, selling it in order to carry on financing their war effort against Israel. They found a way around that is now starting to bear fruit, to provide aid for free to as many people as they can in Gaza. What on earth did Greta think her boatload of rice and tampons and crutches was going to do? It wasn't, as I said, as much as one truck. And Israel has committed to taking the aid they did bring, transferring it through the port of Ashdod in Israel and putting it in through the normal channel. So they could have just raised some money and sent some aid if they'd wanted to. But of course, they wouldn't have got all the selfies and the adulation from their own friends and the other virtue signalers around the world. All I can say is that one picture of Greta that they released, grinning with a little bucket hat on as they gave her a pastrami sandwich. I think she's a vegan. I think that picture says it all and should bring down this whole myth of Saint Greta, this ridiculous woman child. And she is a woman now. She has no excuse of being a child. She just needs to move on, get over it. The world needs to stop paying attention to her, ignore this sort of sick stunt.
You know why she did it, though, Jonathan, don't you? I mean, this is when she was a sort of teenager, she predicted that by 2023, the end of the world will have happened, that humanity will have been destroyed by the climate change emergency. So she's still reeling from the disappointment of that prediction not coming true. So she's moved on from climate change.
Just a champion of the omni-cause.
Yeah, exactly right. Rent-a-cause. And of course,
exactly.
where do all rent-a-cause protesters end up? Supporting Palestine. It's always
attacking Israel, actually.
Well, yeah. And as I say, they live in a world where it goes like this. Palestine, good. Israel, bad. Well, I kind of don't think that Israel is bad. Some of us are still standing with Israel. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Jonathan Sakadoji there, writer and author.